The phone buzzed in my trembling hands, its screen glowing with a single word that hit me like a freight train: boyfriend. I stared at it, my pulse racing, as if the device held a secret I wasn't ready to unravel. 6 months ago, a car accident stole my memories. And now this stranger's name in my contacts was the only clue to a life I couldn't remember living. My name is Ethan Carter, and I woke up in a Seattle hospital with no idea who I was. The doctors called it retrograde amnesia, a cruel trick of the brain that erased 25 years of my life. My parents, my childhood, my friends all gone, replaced by a fog I couldn't pierce. They handed me my phone, a cracked iPhone 12, and told me it might jog something loose. I scrolled through it daily, desperate for a spark, but it was just a jumble of names and numbers until today, when I saw boyfriend listed there. Plain as day. No name, just that word, like a taunt. I didn't know if I was ready to call, but my thumb hovered over the screen, daring me to press it. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, the one my parents had set me up in after I left the hospital. It was bare, clinical, like it belonged to someone who didn't exist yet. The walls were blank. The fridge was empty, and the only personal touch was a stack of notebooks I'd found in a box labeled Ethan stuff. I hadn't opened them yet, too afraid of what I might find. Or what I wouldn't. But that word, boyfriend, burned in my mind. Who was he? Why hadn't he come looking for me? And why did my heart ache at the thought of him, like it knew something I didn't? I pressed the call button before I could overthink it. The line rang once, twice, 3 times. My chest tightened with each unanswered tone. Then, a voice deep, warm, with a slight rasp that sent a shiver down my spine. Ethan, he said, like he'd been waiting for this call forever. Is that you? I froze. My mouth opened, but no words came out. Who was this guy? And why did his voice feel like home? Yeah, I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. It's me. I found your number. It says boyfriend. There was a pause, long enough to make me think I'd made a mistake. Then he laughed, a soft, broken sound that carried more weight than I could understand. God, Ethan, I didn't think you'd ever call. I'm Lucas. Lucas Hayes. Can we meet? Please. I didn't know why I said yes. Maybe it was the desperation in his voice. Or maybe it was the part of me that still remembered how to hope. We agreed to meet at a cafe in downtown Seattle the next day. I barely slept that night, my mind racing with questions. What did he look like? What had we been to each other? And why hadn't he reached out in 6 months? The cafe was called the Brood Awakening, a cozy spot with exposed brick walls and the smell of fresh coffee. I got there early, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Every time the door chimed, my heart leapt, expecting what? A stranger? A lover? I didn't know. Then he walked in. Lucas Hayes was not what I expected. He was tall, with broad shoulders and messy chestnut hair that caught the late afternoon light. His green eyes found me instantly, like he'd been searching for me his whole life. He wore a faded leather jacket and a nervous smile that made my chest ache in a way I couldn't explain. He was beautiful, but not in a polished way. There was something raw, real, about him, like he'd been through hell and still found a reason to smile. Ethan, he said, sliding into the seat across from me. His voice was softer in person, but it carried the same warmth from the phone. You look, you look just like I remember. I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to ask a million questions, but all I could manage was, I don't remember you. His face fell, just for a moment, before he caught himself. That's okay, he said, his voice steady but laced with pain. I'll help you, if you want me to. Over the next hour, Lucas told me fragments of our story. We'd met 2 years ago at a community theater production where I was stage manager and he was an actor. I'd been skeptical of him at first apparently. I thought he was too charming for his own good, but he won me over with late-night talks and stolen kisses backstage. We'd been together for 1.5 years when the accident happened. He'd visited me in the hospital, but my parents, protective and unsure of how I'd react, asked him to give me space. He'd been waiting ever since, hoping I'd find my way back to him. Why didn't you call me? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. 6 months. Lucas, why didn't you fight for me? He looked down at his coffee, his fingers tightening around the mug. I wanted to. Every day? But your parents said you needed time. That pushing you might make things worse. I didn't want to hurt you, Ethan. I still don't. His words hit me hard, stirring something deep inside a mix of anger, longing, and something I couldn't name. I wanted to believe him, but the emptiness in my head made it hard to trust anything. What were we like? I asked, my voice softer now. Before. Lucas's eyes lit up, and for the first time, I saw a spark of the man he must have been before I broke his heart. We were everything. We'd spend weekends hiking in the Cascades, arguing about who made better pancakes, dancing in our socks to old jazz records. You used to write me these little notes, leave them in my jacket pockets. You said they were reminders in case you ever forgot how to love me. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Did I? Love you? I mean. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine, and for a moment, I thought he might cry. Yeah, he said quietly. You did. The cafe seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of us in a bubble of what might have been. I wanted to reach across the table, to touch his hand, to feel something real. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I asked, can we try again? Can you show me who we were? Lucas smiled, a small, hopeful thing that made my heart stutter. I'd like that, he said. More than anything. Over the next few weeks, Lucas became my guide to a life I didn't remember. We started small walks through Pike Place Market, where he pointed out the stall where we'd once bought overpriced cherries and laughed until our sides hurt. He showed me photos on his phone, us at a pride parade, our faces painted with rainbows, us on a ferry to Bainbridge Island, wind whipping through our hair, us curled up on a couch, my head on his shoulder. Each image was a punch to the gut, proof of a love I couldn't feel but desperately wanted to. He was patient, more than I deserved. He never pushed, never demanded I be the Ethan he remembered. But there were moments when I caught him looking at me, his eyes full of a quiet ache, and I knew he was waiting for a sign that I was still his. I wanted to be, but the fog in my mind wouldn't lift. I'd lie awake at night, replaying our conversations, searching for a spark of recognition. Sometimes, I'd open one of those notebooks from the box, hoping for answers. They were filled with my handwriting sketches, poems, random thoughts, but nothing about Lucas. It was like I'd hidden him even from myself. One evening, We went to a jazz club in Capitol Hill, a place Lucas said we used to love. The music was low and sultry, the kind that made you feel like you were drowning in it. We sat in a corner booth, and Lucas told me about the first time we'd come here, how I'd teased him for knowing all the words to Ella Fitzgerald's songs. He sang a few lines under his breath, his voice soft and off-key, and I laughed despite myself. "You're terrible," I said, grinning. "Yeah, but you loved it," he shot back, his eyes twinkling. For a moment, it felt like we were us again, whoever that was. Then his smile faltered, and he looked away. "I miss you, Ethan. Even with you right here, I miss you." His words cut deep, exposing the chasm between us. I wanted to close it, to tell him I was trying, but all I could do was reach for his hand. His fingers were warm, calloused, and they curled around mine like they'd done it 1,000 times. My heart raced, but not with fear, with something else, something alive. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm trying to remember." "I know," he said, squeezing my hand. "And I'll wait as long as it takes." But waiting wasn't enough. The next day, I found something in one of the notebooks, a folded piece of paper tucked in the back. It was a letter, written in my handwriting, dated a week before the accident. It was addressed to Lucas. "Lucas, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to write it. I'm scared. Scared of how much I love you. Scared of what it means. My parents don't get it. They think this is a phase, that I'll come around. I hate that they make me feel like I have to choose between you and them. But I choose you. I always will. If I ever forget that, remind me. Okay? Remind me that you're my home. Ethan." I read it over and over, my hand shaking. I didn't remember writing it, but the words felt true, like they'd been carved into my bones. I called Lucas immediately, my voice breaking as I read him the letter. When I finished, there was silence on the other end, and then a choked sob. "You wrote that the night before the accident," he said. "You were going to give it to me, but you never got the chance." I didn't know what to say. The letter was a lifeline, proof that I'd loved him fiercely once. But it also brought new questions. Why had I been so scared? What had my parents said to make me feel like I had to choose? I needed answers, and I needed them from the only people who might know. I called my parents that night, my heart pounding. They'd been supportive since the accident, but distant, always dodging questions about my past. When I asked about Lucas, my mom's voice tightened. "We didn't think it was a good idea to overwhelm you," she said. "You were figuring things out before the accident. We thought maybe it was better to let you start fresh." "Start fresh?" I snapped. "You mean erase him?" "Mom, I loved him. I found a letter. I wrote that he was my home." There was a long pause. "Ethan, we just wanted what was best for you," she said finally. "You were struggling. Your dad and we didn't understand your relationship with Lucas. We thought you might be happier without that complication." Their words hit like a betrayal. They'd known about Lucas, known what he meant to me, and they'd kept him away. I hung up, my hands shaking with anger. I didn't know who I was angrier at them, for hiding the truth, or myself, for not remembering it. I met Lucas the next day at Gasworks Park, the Seattle skyline glittering across the water. The air was crisp, the kind of autumn chill that made you want to pull someone close. I told him about the call with my parents, about the letter, about the anger and confusion swirling inside me. He listened, his green eyes steady, never judging. They didn't want me to remember you, I said, my voice breaking. They thought I'd be better off without you. Lucas's jaw tightened, but he didn't look surprised. They never liked me much, he admitted. They thought I was confusing you. But Ethan, you were never confused about us. You were the bravest person I knew. You stood up to them, to everyone, for me. I wanted to believe him, but the weight of my missing memories was crushing. What if I can't be that person again? I asked. What if I can't love you the way I did? He took my hands, his touch grounding me. Then we'll make new memories, he said. I don't need you to be the old Ethan. I just need you to be you. His words broke something open in me. I kissed him then, right there under the rusted towers of the park. And it wasn't like the photos or the letter, it was new. Electric. Ours. His lips were soft, hesitant at first, then sure, like he'd been waiting for this moment since the day I forgot him. When we pulled apart, I was crying, and so was he. I don't know if I remember you, I said, my forehead pressed against his. But I know I want to. Lucas smiled, his eyes shining. That's enough for me. Over the next few months, we rebuilt what we could. We went back to the jazz club, hiked the Cascades, danced in our socks to Ella Fitzgerald. I started writing again, filling new notebooks with our story, not the one I'd lost, but the one we were creating. My parents and I talked, slowly working through the hurt. They didn't understand us. Not fully, but they were trying. And that was a start. One night, as we lay on a blanket under the stars at a lookout point, Lucas handed me a small box. Inside was a simple silver ring, engraved with the words, "Always home." I got this for you before the accident, he said. I was going to propose that weekend. I've been carrying it ever since, waiting for you to come back to me. I slipped the ring onto my finger, my heart full. I'm here now, I said, and I'm not going anywhere. The accident took my past, but it gave me something else, a chance to choose Lucas all over again. Our love wasn't perfect, but it was real, built on patience, forgiveness, and the courage to start over. I didn't need my memories to know that Lucas was my home. I felt it in every touch, every glance, every quiet moment we shared. And as we lay there, the stars above us and the future ahead, I knew we'd write a story worth remembering.